Hi, I'm Chris Ralph, and I'm here to tell you guys basically one of the secrets of successful prospecting. And the hard part about successful prospecting really is not learning how to use your detector. You know, it takes a little work to do that, but it's not impossible. It's not the hardest part. Learning proper technique of going out and searching for nuggets. Again, takes a little work, you got to swing slowly and carefully. But again, that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is finding places where there's gold that your detector can see. Okay? And what I'm here to tell you today is about a place that most people overlook. Not specifically this place, but a kind of place, which is old hard rock mines. Now, this old hard rock mine, I happen to know from my research, has produced a little bit of gold and silver. And the assay, a guy did an assay on the dump here and got some decent gold numbers. So I don't know whether that gold is free milling or whether it's coarse or fine. The truth is, most old gold mines, the gold in the mines, it tends to be really small. I mean, literally like dust. And that's too small for any metal detector to see. But some mines do produce coarse gold. And one of the things about detecting mine dumps is if you get one of the ones that has coarse gold, it can be very productive. And they're oftentimes overlooked by other prospectors. So you may come out to a dump like this and find no other dig holes, no other sign that any prospector has ever taken a metal detector here. And so you may be free and clear to find all the best stuff for yourself. So remember hard rock mine dumps when you think of possible places to go prospecting. Again, like I say, most of the gold mines around, the gold is just too fine to see with a metal detector. But some of them do, and some of them, even though most of the gold is too fine, will still have some gold that's coarse enough to see with a metal detector. And that's what I'm going to do today. I've never checked this dump out. I walked around a minute ago. There's no sign that anybody else ever has. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to take this time and go check the dump, and I'm going to use the Gold Monster 1000 VLF, because remember, VLFs that are really sensitive tend to be better at really tiny gold and also hard rock and specimen gold, which is what you'd find in a dump. When you go, be sure and take a little bit bigger bottle. I've got a little bit larger bottle today because I'm likely, maybe if I'm going to find something, I'm going to find specimens. And I will let you know what I find. The other thing I'm going to do today, and I'll show you that too, is I'm going to take some samples to test and see whether or not this is free gold that could be maybe dry washed, even if it's too small for the metal detector. Sometimes dry washing old dumps can be productive. So I'm going to take some bucket samples and I'll take those home, and then I'll pan them out or run them through a recirculating sluice box type of thing, one thing or the other, so I can see what, if any, free gold could be obtained from running the samples, the dirt that's in these dumps. Now you can see the dump behind me. It's really red and irony looking. That's because this dump is mostly kind of a Gossan-like material. This was once super rich in sulfides. That's what that red is. It was probably mostly pyrite. And then over time, as it was near the surface, the oxygen from the air, rainwater coming down, just basically oxidized that pyrite until there's nothing left but rust. And that's what you see in the dump there, is rust. It's basically iron oxides, the same as you would get on a piece of metal left out in the weather, a piece of iron left out in the weather. So I'm going to take a few minutes and do this, and I'll let you know what I find, and I'll show you some video of me actually detecting in just a few minutes. But my point for this video is, remember mine dumps, because they can be super productive. And if you hit the right one, you may be picking and taking home many ounces of gold. So I don't know if this is the right one. I'm going to go find out. Join me in just a minute. I'll come back to you and let you know. Okay, I wanted to add a few things that I forgot to mention out in the field. So I'm going to show you some pictures and give you some ideas of things that actually it's easier to show you by slide than when I was out in the field. And here we have some mine dumps in a gold bearing district in Nevada. One of the things I want to point out is that when you're detecting dumps, it's important to note the color and rock differences on various mining dumps. It's often found that up near the top of the dump, up near the portal, or someplace alongside the dump, you'll have material of different color or a different type of rock. That's important to note these things. A lot of times, especially with small prospects, the miners would sort and set aside ore for shipping. Now, in big mines, kind of like these, not so much because they had a mill nearby. But in small prospects, the miners would get some good ore, they'd set it aside, and sometimes they never actually got it shipped to a mill. They would want to accumulate as much as they could to make a shipment because it was cheaper, both shipping and processing, to send, say, 40 or 50 tons to be processed as opposed to 1 or 2 tons. It costs a lot more per ton to ship just a few tons. So sometimes they didn't ship because they hadn't accumulated enough, or there could be other reasons. But anyway, it's not uncommon that in mine dumps, a part of a dump will pay like this, part of the dump will pay and part of it won't. So if you're paying attention to where the gold comes from, it may help you when you're out prospecting these old mine dumps. Now note in this one, off to the right, there's a metal pipe, and a lot of times miners had a way of getting the ore down from the top of a mine down to a lower area where they could bring a truck in. Because if you're going to ship ore to a mill to be processed, to a custom mill, you need to fill a truck up. And a lot of times the truck couldn't get up to the top of the ore dump, and even then you'd have to lift the ore up into the truck, even if you could get it up on top of the dump. So they would have a road come in toward the bottom of the dump and run some sort of chute or delivery system to get the rock into the truck so it could be shipped. And here, at very low cost, you see some broken wood and a metal tube. The miners could run their ore, slide it down the vent tube here, and dump it into a truck, which could then haul the material to the mill. And the little bits of wood and one tube there is all you can see. That's all that's left. But sometimes there's a lot more to be seen with these systems. So be aware of areas where ore might be on the side. See, this one is kind of off to the side. That's normally where the miners would place them, is off to the side. They specially segregated the ore away from the waste rock. But remember that there can be gold in the waste rock area too. Sometimes the miners would throw stuff out that they really didn't know was as good as it was. And I know people who found really good specimens and really good free gold ore in the dump part of a dump, and not just in the ore segregation area. Like I say, remember different colors. You can see there's some areas that are lighter and some that are more red. Generally speaking, the more red indicates a higher degree of mineralization. Now here we have a different type of loading system. This is a much more formal one. The miners in this case, they had an adit going into the side of the hill, and when they brought it out, they had a switch on their track. You can see some of the track on the left-hand side, more or less in the foreground. But they would bring their track out of the mine and have a switch, and one switch would take the material to the waste dump, which they could, just dispose of. And then the other switch would take it to this wooden bin that you can see, and right to the right side of the wooden bin, there's a chute that comes out, and that actually was set up that a truck could come by there, and that chute could load right into the bed of the truck. And so the miners would come out over this chute, or over the bin on the track, and would dump into the bin. And when they had the bin full enough, then they could bring trucks in and load trucks and ship ore. So oftentimes around these bins, at the bottom where the trucks would load, or even off to the side of the bin, you'll find specimens of better grade material, because this was the good stuff that they shipped, and sometimes they spilled a little bit of it. And so you want to keep a sharp eye out for material that was spilt. I've had good luck finding nice specimens of higher grade material in and around ore feed bins like this. So this was a good idea to keep an eye out for things like this and look around them carefully with your metal detector for higher grade bits and pieces that were accidentally spilt. Here's another kind of a bin setup. This one, instead of feeding into some chute that would load a truck, this feeds directly into a stamp mill that they would use to process the ore. And there was where the stamp mill is, there was actually a milling area below that, but the building is gone. You can see some of the concrete down there. But around this bin, I found some decent specimens of ore. So again, these bins, the loading bins, sometimes lost some good material, and it's important to keep an eye out for things and be sure to look in these places if you come across them when you're out in the field looking at mine dumps. Another thing that you want to bring is a hammer and chisel, and I don't mean just a little rock hammer, but a big, like this is a 2-pound crack hammer, and a big heavy-duty eye-bar chisel, because you might stumble across a big rock. See, this particular rock here I tested with my metal detector, and it gave a good signal. And so I wanted to remove it, but the whole rock itself was over 100 pounds. So I was lucky in that only one portion of this chunk gave a good signal, and I was able to take my pry bar and hammer and break off a section where the signal was coming from and just take that section with me. There are cases where the whole rock would have gold throughout it, and in those cases you might need your hammer to break up the rock into pieces small enough for you to carry and get out of wherever you're in there prospecting. So always remember, at least in your car, to have a good-sized hammer and a good-sized chisel or pry bar, eye bar, something like that you could bust up a rock with, because even a sledgehammer would be better. Because if you come across something that weighs 100 pounds and you can't take it with you, but you find it's shot full of gold, you really don't want to leave that thing behind. So remember, old mining sites, the old hard rock dumps and that sort of thing are really good potential for finding nice specimens of free gold, and some of the specimens are just really attractive and can have value much higher than just the gold that they contain, and they're a place that a lot of prospectors overlook. And they're scattered everywhere from all the western states. These have all been pretty much desert shots, but in the Sierra and in other places with trees, Oregon, the mine dumps are just as potentially valuable and something that you want to check on. So we've finished this little exercise of additional things that I wanted to talk about. Let's get back and I'll tell you how I did with the prospecting there at that one site.
Well, I gave it my best shot, and I got a bunch of pieces of shrapnel. You know, the Gold Monster and then some of the other VLFs are good at discriminating, and like I say, usually the mine dumps are full of trash, and your discriminator will help you avoid the nails and bits of tin and that sort of thing. But if there's aluminum or brass shrapnel, and today's shrapnel was brass, it's not going to miss those. And I found a lot of shrapnel, even some itsy bitsy tiny pieces, but no gold. But that's what prospecting is about. I mean, if you don't go out and try new places and try different places, you're never going to make a big strike. If you only go out where somebody else has already gone out 10 times before you, or other people, or hundreds of people have gone out before you, you're not likely to make a big strike. So try new places. That's really an important thing. I got some samples that were that I'm going to run through a sluice box or pan out when I get home, and we'll see if there's any fine gold in there. But today's prospecting was not the most successful, but you got to take swings. You got to swing some, even the best home run hitter, they usually only bat about 250, and even then, when they bat 250 or 300, it still is only once in a while they hit a home run. So tried to hit a home run today. I did a swing and a miss, but we'll see you out in the fields again soon, and I'll have another great adventure for you, and we'll talk again soon. Best of luck to you in all your prospecting adventures. See you later.
And if you're interested in finding out more about prospecting for gold and finding your own gold, check out my book, Fistful of Gold. It has a whole lot of information about prospecting. Basically, it's an encyclopedia. There's more than 350 pages of information here, well illustrated with pictures and all sorts of things, and just basically everything you need to know to be successful as a prospector. It's all about panning, sluicing, metal detecting, dry washing, the geology of gold, how to do research. Anyway, it's all in here in my book, Fistful of Gold, and it's available now on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and just enter Fistful of Gold by Chris Ralph, you'll find it. I guarantee it'll come up. And then also, I have a free webpage that I'd love to have you check out. I've got all kinds of information there about locations to prospect for gold, information about adventures and things like that, how to find your own gold. It kind of goes along with the book, but it's a free webpage. And that can be found at nevadaoutbackgems.com/prospect/chrisprospect.htm. That's the URL for it. And if you like this presentation, finally, and you want to keep learning about finding your own gold and you want to see more, then please subscribe and click the notification bell. I've got lots more gold, silver, and gemstone videos coming, both in slide presentations and live action videos out in the field. So click the subscribe button and tick that notification bell, and YouTube will let you know when I publish new stuff. And be sure to also hit the like button, and feel free to ask any questions or make any comments you'd like. I will try my very best to answer your questions in the comment section on the video. So very good, and thanks a lot, and we'll see you again next time.